What's the most jaw-dropping lie someone told to get out of trouble, and did it work? My best friend convinced me she had terminal brain cancer for 8 months while stealing $47,000 from my wedding fund, and I only found out the truth when I accidentally ran into her oncologist at Starbucks, who had never heard of her. I'm still sitting in my car outside that Starbucks, hands shaking, trying to process what just happened. Dr. Richards, the man I've been thanking in my prayers every night for taking such good care of Marlene, just stared at me like I was speaking a foreign language when I walked up to him. "I'm sorry, I think you have me confused with someone else," he said when I introduced myself as Marlene Ledger's best friend. "I work in pediatric oncology. I don't treat adult patients." "But you're Dr. Richards from City General, right? You've been treating my friend Marlene for glioblastoma?" His face went from confused to concerned. "Miss, I've never had a patient named Marlene Ledger." "Are you feeling all right?" That's when my entire world tilted sideways. 8 months ago, I thought Marlene was just being careless with money. I'd noticed $3,000 missing from our joint wedding account, the one I'd stupidly given Marlene access to because she was my maid of honor and helping coordinate vendor payments. We'd been best friends since college, and I trusted her completely, more than I trusted myself, apparently. When I first saw the discrepancy, I felt sick bringing it up. Marlene had been acting weird for weeks, forgetting conversations, seeming scattered, not her usual sharp self. But $3,000 doesn't just disappear. "Marlene, I'm looking at the wedding account and there's money missing. Did you pay someone I'm not remembering?" She went completely white, then started crying. "Kate, I'm so sorry. I've been so confused lately. My head's been killing me and I can barely think straight. I must have paid the florist twice or moved money to the wrong account. God, I'm such an idiot." I felt terrible. Marlene never cried. She was the put-together one, the one who had her life figured out while I was still trying to adult properly at 28. Seeing her fall apart over what was probably just a banking error made me feel like the worst friend alive. "Hey, it's okay. We'll figure it out. Are you feeling all right, though? You said your head's been hurting." "It's probably just stress from work. I'll call the bank tomorrow and sort this out, I promise." I hugged her and told her not to worry about it. Money was just money. I had more important things to focus on, like marrying Jason in 6 months. A week later, Marlene called me sobbing. "Kate, I need you to come over, please. I just got back from the doctor." I drove to her apartment thinking maybe she had migraines or needed glasses. Marlene was sitting on her couch with a stack of papers in her lap, mascara streaked down her face. "They found something on the MRI." "What kind of something?" "A tumor. In my brain. It's bad, Kate. Really bad." She handed me a sheet of paper covered in medical terminology I didn't understand. "Glioblastoma, stage 4, aggressive. The doctor said 6 to 12 months, maybe less." I stared at that paper while Marlene explained how the headaches and confusion suddenly made sense. The financial mix-up wasn't carelessness. It was her brain literally not working properly anymore. "That's why I've been so scattered. The tumor's been growing for months, probably. It's affecting my memory, my judgment." Dr. Richards said it's common for patients to make mistakes with money and important decisions. Marlene was dying. My best friend, my maid of honor, the person I'd called when Jason proposed because I needed to tell someone who'd be as excited as I was. She was dying of brain cancer, and I'd accused her of stealing from me when she was probably already sick and scared and dealing with symptoms she didn't understand. The wedding money suddenly seemed so fucking trivial. "What do we do?" I asked. "What's the treatment plan?" "Chemo starts next week. Radiation after that. Dr. Richards wants to be aggressive, but he was honest about the prognosis. It's not good, Kate. I spent that night researching glioblastoma, reading survival stories, trying to find hope in statistics that offered none. Jason held me while I cried, and we decided that whatever Marlene needed, we'd make it happen. She was going to beat this. She had to. I had no idea I was already 8 months deep into the most elaborate lie anyone had ever told me. Marlene's first chemo appointment was on a Tuesday. I offered to drive her, obviously, but she insisted she could handle it. "The treatments are going to be long and boring," she said. "Dr. Richards said I should try to maintain some independence while I can." She looked so brave saying it, so determined to face this thing with dignity. But by Thursday, Marlene looked like hell. Her face was pale and drawn, and she kept touching her stomach like she was nauseous. When I brought over soup, she could barely keep it down. "The chemo is really hitting me hard," she whispered, curled up on her couch. Dr. Richards warned me it would be rough, but I didn't expect to feel this sick so fast. I sat with her while she dozed, watching my vibrant, energetic best friend reduced to this fragile shell. The woman who used to drag me out for 2 a.m. karaoke sessions could barely stay awake for an hour. Marlene started losing weight rapidly, 20 pounds in a month. Her clothes hung loose, and she developed these dark circles under her eyes that made her look haunted. "I can't eat anything," she told me, pushing away a sandwich I'd made. "Everything tastes like metal. Dr. Richards says that's normal, but it's horrible." Marlene had always had gorgeous, thick black hair that she was secretly vain about. Now she was constantly running her fingers through it, and I could see patches of scalp showing through. "I think I'm going to start wearing scarves," she said one afternoon, catching me staring. "It's getting pretty obvious, isn't it?" I wanted to lie and tell her it wasn't that bad, but we'd always been honest with each other. "Yeah, it's noticeable, but you're still beautiful, Marlene. This is just temporary." "Is it, though?" Her voice cracked. What if the treatment doesn't work? What if I'm just destroying my body for nothing? I held her while she cried, and I cried too. This wasn't fair. Marlene was only 27. She had her whole life ahead of her. By month 2, I was driving Marlene to every appointment because she claimed the chemo was affecting her coordination. She'd direct me to the cancer center at City General, and I'd drop her off at the main entrance. Dr. Richards doesn't want visitors during treatment, she explained. Something about infection risk and keeping the environment calm for patients. I'd sit in the parking garage for 4 hours, usually working on my laptop or reading, waiting for her to text that she was done. Marlene would emerge looking exhausted and weak, sometimes with what looked like a needle mark on her arm. How was it today? I'd ask. Rough. They increased the dosage. Dr. Richards is pushing hard because the tumor isn't responding as well as he hoped. Those car rides home became our sacred time. Marlene would lean back in the passenger seat with her eyes closed, and we'd talk about everything. Memories from college, her fears about dying, my guilt about planning a wedding while she was fighting for her life. I want you to promise me something, she said one afternoon. If I don't make it, don't postpone your happiness because of me. Live your life, Kate. Get married, have babies, be disgustingly happy. I was crying so hard I had to pull over. Don't talk like that. You're going to beat this. But if I don't, you will. But if I don't, she insisted, promise me you'll still have your perfect wedding, even if I can't be there to see it. It was around this time that I started noticing money disappearing from the wedding account again. First another $2,000, then $4,000, then $3,000 more. Each time I brought it up, Marlene would look confused and apologetic. God, I'm so sorry. The chemo brain is getting worse. I honestly don't remember what I paid or when. Dr. Richards warned me this would happen. The treatment affects memory and judgment. She'd show me her phone, scrolling through banking apps and vendor emails with a bewildered expression. I must have double paid someone or moved money around when I wasn't thinking clearly. I'll figure it out and pay you back as soon as I can think straight again. How could I be angry at someone whose brain was literally being poisoned to save her life? Marlene was fighting cancer, and I was worried about wedding expenses. By month 3, Marlene's hair loss had accelerated dramatically. She started wearing headscarves constantly, claiming it was easier than dealing with the patchy growth. It's coming out in clumps, she told me, her voice matter-of-fact in that way people talk about horrible things when they're trying not to break down. I wake up and there's hair all over my pillow. Dr. Richards says it's actually a good sign, means the chemo is working. But Marlene seemed to be getting sicker, not better. She'd lost nearly 30 pounds now, and her face had this gaunt, hollow look that terrified me. The nausea was constant, and she'd started having what she called brain fog episodes, where she'd forget conversations we'd had, or lose track of time completely. Yesterday, I woke up and couldn't remember what day it was, she confided. I thought it was Saturday, but it was Tuesday. Dr. Richards says the tumor is in a location that affects temporal processing. She'd started sending me these heartbreaking late-night texts. Can't sleep. Scared I won't see Christmas. Weird headache today. Tumor growing. Thank you for being the best friend anyone could ask for. The wedding account was now missing $15,000 total, but I'd stopped bringing it up. Marlene was dying. Money felt obscene to worry about when my best friend might not live to see my wedding. Then on day, Marlene showed up completely bald. I opened my apartment door to find her standing there without any headscarf or hat, her scalp completely smooth and pale. She looked tiny and fragile, like a bird with broken wings. It all fell out last night, she said simply. I figured there was no point hiding it anymore. I pulled her inside and just held her while she cried. She felt so thin in my arms, like she might break if I squeezed too hard. I look like a ghost, she whispered. You look like a warrior, I told her, and I meant it. You look like someone who's fighting the hardest battle of her life. Marlene started taking what she called chemo selfies, photos of herself bald and tired but smiling, sometimes with thumbs up or peace signs. She posted them on Instagram with captions like round 12 of chemo, still standing, and hair is overrated anyway, #cancerwarrior. Friends from college, coworkers, even distant acquaintances started commenting with love and support. Someone set up a GoFundMe campaign for Marlene's medical expenses that raised $8,000 in the first week. I can't believe how much people care, Marlene told me, scrolling through the donations with tears in her eyes. I feel so loved. Marlene started communicating directly with Dr. Richards' office on my behalf. She'd forward me emails from him explaining her treatment progress and what to expect. Kate has been asking about Marlene's prognosis. One email read, I want you to know that Marlene is responding well to treatment, though we're not out of the woods yet. The aggressive chemotherapy regimen is necessary given the tumor's location and growth rate. Marlene's confusion and memory issues are expected side effects that should improve once treatment concludes. Having direct communication from her oncologist made me feel special, like I was part of Marlene's inner circle of care. Dr. Richards would send me updates about her blood work, explanations of why certain symptoms were appearing, and reassurance that we were doing everything possible. Marlene spoke with me about her financial concerns, another email said. The experimental treatments we're discussing may not be covered by insurance, but they could significantly improve her outcome. I know this puts stress on her support system, but please know that every effort is being made to save her life. By month 4, the experimental treatments, Dr. Richards mentioned started getting expensive. Marlene showed me estimates of $12,000 for a new drug therapy that wasn't FDA approved yet, but had shown promise in trials. I can't afford this, she told me, staring at the paperwork. But Dr. Richards thinks it's my best shot at beating this thing. I looked at our wedding account balance. Jason and I had been saving for 3 years for our dream wedding. The venue, the photographer, the dress I'd been planning since I was 12 years old. How much do you need? I heard myself asking. Kate, no, I can't take your wedding money. Marlene, it's just a party. You're my best friend. We'll figure out the wedding later. That night, I transferred $12,000 from our wedding fund to Marlene's account. Jason was supportive but worried about our own financial situation. We decided to postpone the wedding by 6 months to save up again. Marlene's life is more important than one perfect day, I told him. We can get married anytime. She might not have any time. I can see how perfectly Marlene had orchestrated everything. The gradual physical transformation, the medical terminology, the convenient financial crises that always aligned with new treatments. But at the time, I felt honored to be trusted with her life. I felt like I was part of something meaningful, helping my best friend fight for her survival. Month 6 brought the news I'd been dreading since this nightmare began. Marlene called me at work, her voice barely a whisper. Kate, can you come over? Dr. Richards wants to discuss options. I left my desk immediately, my heart hammering against my ribs. When I arrived at Marlene's apartment, she was sitting on her couch with a stack of medical papers, looking smaller than I'd ever seen her. The weight loss had accelerated. She was maybe 90 pounds now, all sharp angles and hollow spaces. The cancer has spread, she said without looking up. It's in my spine now. And they found spots on my liver. The papers she handed me were covered in medical terminology that made my vision blur. Metastatic, terminal, palliative care options. Dr. Richards says we're looking at weeks, maybe a month or 2 if I'm lucky. Her voice was eerily calm, like she was discussing someone else's death. There's one more option, but it's experimental. There's a clinic in Houston doing trials with a new immunotherapy drug. What kind of trials? Expensive ones. The treatment costs $20,000, and it has to be paid up front because insurance won't cover experimental procedures. But Dr. Richards thinks it's my only real shot. I stared at the treatment information, my mind reeling. $20,000? That was everything left in our wedding fund, plus money I'd have to borrow from my parents. Marlene, of course we'll figure it out. Jason and I can… No. She grabbed my hand with fingers that felt like bird bones. I can't let you destroy your future for a maybe. Dr. Richards was honest. This treatment only works for about 30% of patients. But if there's a chance… Kate, you've already given me so much. You've postponed your wedding, spent your savings, been there for every appointment. I can't ask for more. That night, I lay awake calculating. My parents had offered to help with wedding expenses. Jason's family had been setting aside money too. Between everyone, we could probably raise the $20,000. If this was your sister, what would you do? I asked Jason in the darkness. I'd do whatever it took, he said quietly. But Kate, are you sure about this? That's every penny we have. She's going to die without this treatment. How can I live with myself knowing I could have saved her? The next morning, I called Dr. Richards' office directly for the first time. I wanted to understand exactly what this treatment involved, what Marlene's chances really were. The receptionist transferred me to someone who claimed to be Dr. Richards' nurse. Miss Ledger's case is quite complex, the woman explained. The immunotherapy we're discussing is highly specialized. We've seen remarkable results in similar cases, but we need to move quickly. The treatment window is very narrow, given how aggressive her cancer has become. What exactly does the treatment involve? I can't discuss specific medical details over the phone, but Dr. Richards has been very optimistic about Marlene's response potential. She has the genetic markers that suggest this therapy could be highly effective for her. That afternoon, I emptied our wedding fund and borrowed $5,000 from my parents. Marlene cried when I transferred the money, but they were tears of gratitude, not guilt. I'm going to beat this, she whispered. For you. For all the people who believed in me. The Houston clinic required Marlene to stay there for 2 weeks of intensive treatment. I offered to come with her, but she insisted I couldn't miss more work. You've sacrificed enough already. I'll call you every day, I promise. While Marlene was in Houston, I was researching her condition. I wanted to understand what she was going through, to be the best support system possible when she returned. The inconsistencies started bothering me. Glioblastoma patients rarely had the kind of systematic organ metastasis Marlene was describing. The timeline didn't match typical progression patterns. Most concerning, the Houston clinic Marlene mentioned didn't appear on any reputable cancer center databases. I told myself I was overthinking things. Medical information online was confusing and incomplete. Every case was different. Marlene's doctors knew better than Google. But a nagging doubt had lodged itself in my chest. When Marlene returned from Houston, she looked better. Not dramatically, but there was color in her cheeks I hadn't seen in months. She claimed the treatment had been promising, but that results would take weeks to evaluate. Dr. Richards is cautiously optimistic, she told me. My latest blood work shows some encouraging signs. Marlene's improvement became more obvious. She had more energy, was eating regularly, even started talking about when I'm in remission, instead of if I survive. But something felt off. Maybe it was the way she'd sometimes forget which symptoms she was supposed to have, or how her medical updates never quite aligned with what I was reading about her condition. One evening, I was helping Marlene organize her medical paperwork when I noticed something strange. The hospital letterhead on her latest test results looked different from earlier documents. The font was slightly off and the paper quality seemed inconsistent. "Marlene, are these from the same lab?" She glanced over, then quickly shuffled the papers together. "Different departments use different formats. Dr. Richards explained that to me." But her explanation felt rehearsed, like she'd prepared for this question. Leslie, Marlene's coworker, started calling me around this time with concerns that made my stomach twist. "Kate, I need to tell you something, and I hope you won't think I'm horrible for saying it." "What's wrong?" "It's about Marlene. I've been watching her at work, and she doesn't act like someone who's dying of brain cancer." My defensive instincts flared immediately. "What do you mean?" "Last week, I saw her in the break room eating a full lunch. She told you she can't keep food down because of chemo nausea, right? But she was eating normally, laughing with coworkers, and her memory seems fine at work. She's handling complex projects without any of the confusion she describes to you. Maybe she's having good days. Cancer isn't consistent." "Kate, I took pictures." Leslie sent me photos of Marlene at work looking healthy, energetic, engaged. In one, taken just days ago, Marlene was smiling and animated, her face full and vibrant. It was a stark contrast to the gaunt, exhausted woman who'd been leaning on me for support. "There's something else," Leslie continued. "I followed her after work yesterday. She didn't go to any medical appointment. She went to an expensive salon and spent 3 hours there. Maybe she was getting a wig consultation or—" "Kate, she came out with a full head of hair. Beautiful, professionally styled hair. When she got to her car, she put on a headscarf to cover it." The photos Leslie showed me made my world tilt. Marlene walking into the salon bald, Marlene emerging hours later with gorgeous hair extensions, Marlene carefully concealing her transformation before driving home. I couldn't sleep that night. I kept staring at the photos, trying to reconcile them with the dying woman I'd been caring for. Was it possible Marlene was healthier than she'd been letting on, or was something much darker happening? I started paying closer attention to details I'd previously accepted without question. Marlene's chemo brain seemed conveniently selective. She forgot financial conversations but remembered complex work projects perfectly. Her energy levels fluctuated in ways that didn't match typical treatment patterns. Most disturbing, I realized Marlene never actually let me see her receive treatment. I always waited in the parking garage while she supposedly underwent chemotherapy. When I'd offered to accompany her inside, she always had medical excuses about infection control or patient privacy. The thought that had been lurking in the back of my mind finally crystallized into something I couldn't ignore. What if Marlene wasn't sick at all? But even thinking it made me feel like a monster. What kind of person was I to doubt someone I'd watched waste away before my eyes? I decided to test my suspicions in the smallest way possible. The next time Marlene mentioned Dr. Richards, I asked for his direct number. I'd love to send him a thank you card for taking such good care of you. "Could you give me his office information?" Marlene's hesitation lasted just a beat too long. "Oh, he doesn't really do personal correspondence. Very clinical, you know. But I can pass along your message." "What department is he in at City General?" "I might send something to the whole oncology team. It's complicated. He works with multiple departments. I can handle getting your message to the right people." That weekend, I did something I'd never imagined myself doing. I called City General's oncology department directly. "I'm looking for Dr. Richards. My friend is one of his patients. We have several doctors with that surname. Can you be more specific about the first name or which oncology subspecialty?" I realized I'd never heard Marlene mention Dr. Richards' first name. In 8 months of supposedly intensive treatment, I knew virtually nothing concrete about her primary oncologist. "He's treating a young woman with glioblastoma. Marlene Ledger? I'm sorry, but I can't discuss patient information. If you're looking for Dr. Richards specifically, could you provide his first name or department?" I'm not sure. My friend usually handles the communication directly." The receptionist's tone became slightly suspicious. "Ma'am, if you're a family member or authorized contact, you should have your friend add you to her approved communication list. We can't provide doctor information without proper patient authorization." I hung up feeling sick and confused. Maybe Marlene was protecting her privacy. But deep down, a voice I'd been suppressing for weeks was getting louder. Something was very, very wrong. The Starbucks revelation was still burning in my chest when I called Marlene. "Hey, how are you feeling today?" I asked, my voice somehow steady despite my hands shaking. "Exhausted. Had treatment this morning. Dr. Richards increased the dosage again because the latest scans showed some concerning areas." I closed my eyes. "Marlene, I need to ask you something. What's Dr. Richards' first name?" Silence. Just for a beat, but I caught it. "David. Dr. David Richards. Why?" "I just ran into him at Starbucks." "Interesting guy." Another pause. "Oh, that's weird. He mentioned he was grabbing coffee before his afternoon appointments. Small world." "Yeah, really small. Especially since he told me he's never heard of you." The silence stretched so long I thought the call had dropped. "Kate, what are you talking about?" "Dr. David Richards. Pediatric oncologist at City General. Never treated an adult patient in his life. Never heard the name Marlene Ledger. You must be confused. Maybe you met a different doctor. Richards? Marlene, stop. Kate, the treatment is affecting my memory, but I know my own doctor. Stop. The word came out harder than I intended. I need to see your medical records right now, all of them. I don't understand why you're being so aggressive. I'm literally fighting for my life and I'm coming over. Have everything ready. I drove to Marlene's apartment with Jason because I knew I needed a witness for whatever was about to happen. My hands were trembling so badly that Jason had to take the keys when we arrived. Marlene answered the door looking appropriately frail, pale, wrapped in a blanket, moving slowly. But now I was seeing it differently. Had it always been performance? Kate, I don't know what's gotten into you, but this is really hurtful. I'm sick and scared, and you're treating me like I'm some kind of criminal. Show me your medical records. They're on my laptop, but I don't understand why. Just show me. Marlene's laptop was conveniently having technical issues. The patient portal wouldn't load. The Wi-Fi was acting up. She had a dozen excuses for why she couldn't access the files that had been readily available for months when she needed to show me treatment plans and bills. This is ridiculous, Jason said quietly. Marlene, if you're really sick, just show us the records. If Kate's wrong, prove it. I can't believe you're both ganging up on me. I'm dying, and my best friend is accusing me of lying about it. Do you have any idea how that feels? Call Dr. Richards right now. Call him and put him on speaker. I don't have his direct number. Marlene, you've been emailing with him for months. You forward me messages from him constantly. Call him. His office handles appointments. Call the office then. Kate, please. You're scaring me. I don't understand what's happening. Jason spoke up. What's happening is that my fiancé just discovered her best friend has been lying to her for 8 months. What's happening is that we've spent our entire wedding fund on someone who might not even be sick. What's happening is that you need to start telling the truth right fucking now. Okay, she said finally. Okay, you want the truth? Fine. She sat down heavily on her couch, and suddenly the frail, dying act dropped completely. I'm not dying. I never had cancer. Dr. Richards doesn't exist. Jesus Christ, Marlene, Jason breathed. But before you hate me, let me explain. Explain? I found my voice, and it came out raw with fury. Explain how you stole $50,000 from us? Explain how you made me think you were dying? It wasn't supposed to go this far. It started small. I just needed some money. And then you were so worried about me, and everyone was being so nice. You shaved your fucking head, Marlene. You made me drive you to fake chemo appointments. You made me feel guilty for having a wedding while you were supposedly dying. I know how it sounds. How it sounds. How it sounds. I was standing now, pacing, 8 months of suppressed rage finally breaking free. You let me postpone my wedding. You let me borrow money from my parents. You took donations from people who cared about you. I was going to pay it back. With what money, Marlene? Where did our wedding fund go? Marlene had been living like a queen for 8 months on our stolen money, expensive dinners, designer clothes, a luxury apartment she could never have afforded on her real salary. The weight loss came from diet pills and extreme dieting to look sick. The hair loss was completely voluntary. She'd been shaving her head and buying expensive wigs to maintain the illusion. I felt so invisible before, she said, tears streaming down her face. Nobody cared about me until I was dying. People were calling, texting, visiting. I felt loved for the first time in years. So you manipulated everyone who cared about you? I didn't mean for it to become this elaborate. But every time I tried to end it, people were so invested in my recovery. You were so proud of being my support system. I couldn't disappoint you. I stared at her, this person I'd thought I knew completely, and realized I had no idea who she really was. You couldn't disappoint me? Marlene, you let me think I was helping save your life when you were actually robbing me blind. I know what I did was wrong. Wrong? Jason's voice was incredulous. Marlene, this isn't wrong like cheating on a test or lying about your weight. This is sociopathic. This is criminal fraud. The plan was to fake my death, Marlene continued, like she was confessing to a therapist instead of the people she'd destroyed. I was going to move away, start over somewhere else. You would have grieved for a while, but eventually you would have moved on and remembered our friendship fondly. You were going to let us bury an empty coffin? Let us spend the rest of our lives thinking we lost our best friend to cancer? I thought it would be easier than explaining. Easier for who, Marlene? Easier for you. What about me? What about everyone who loved you? I need you to tell me exactly where our money went. Every penny, right now. Marlene's itemized confession was breathtaking in its selfishness. Designer clothes to look good in photos for when people visited. Expensive meals because I couldn't eat cheap food when I was supposed to be dying. A luxury apartment because I needed a nice place for people to visit me. Spa treatments, jewelry, even a weekend trip to Napa for my mental health during treatment. She'd crowdfunded a year of living like a celebrity while we scraped together money to save her fictional life. And the emails from Dr. Richards? I created a fake email account. I researched medical terminology online and wrote responses that would reassure you but keep you from asking too many questions. The medical documents? Photoshop and medical templates I found online. It's easier than you'd think. Marlene hadn't just lied. She'd created an entire fictional medical system to support her lies. How long were you planning to keep this going? I don't know. I kept thinking I'd figure out an exit strategy, but every time I tried to get better, people wanted more updates, more medical details. You were so invested in my recovery that I couldn't just suddenly be fine. So you were trapped by your own lies. I was trapped by how much everyone loved dying Marlene more than they ever loved healthy Marlene. Marlene had discovered that being a victim got her more attention, love, and financial support than being herself ever had. She'd chosen to be a professional victim instead of working on actually being a better person. What happens now? Jason asked. Now you're going to give us back every penny you can. You're going to confess to everyone you scammed. You're going to face whatever legal consequences come from this. And then you're going to get the hell out of my life forever. Kate, please. Our friendship was never real, Marlene. I was friends with someone who doesn't exist. I was friends with a character you created to manipulate me. The person sitting on that couch wasn't my best friend. She was a stranger who'd been wearing my best friend's identity like a costume for 8 months. The Marlene I'd loved, the one I'd grieved for, had never existed at all. I loved you, I said quietly. I loved you enough to give up my wedding, my savings, my peace of mind. I would have done anything to save you, and you used that love to steal from me. I loved you too. No, you didn't. You loved what I could give you. You loved being the center of attention. You loved playing victim while I played savior. But you never loved me enough to tell me the truth. I called the police from Marlene's apartment. While we waited for them to arrive, I sat in my car and called my parents to explain why they needed to cancel the check they'd written to help save my best friend's life. Honey, are you sure? My mom asked. Maybe she's just confused from the treatment. Mom, she confessed. She made the whole thing up. Cancer, chemo, everything. Why would someone do that? I don't know. I thought I knew her, but I didn't know anything. Marlene was arrested that evening for fraud and theft. The local news picked up the story, and suddenly everyone who donated to her GoFundMe, attended her fundraisers, or sent cards of encouragement learned they'd been supporting an elaborate lie. The GoFundMe platform refunded the donations. Marlene's family, who had also been scammed, pressed additional charges. Her employer fired her immediately, but the money she'd already spent was gone. Our wedding fund, the money from my parents, Jason's family's contribution. Marlene had burned through $47,000 in 8 months of playing cancer patient. Jason and I postponed our wedding indefinitely, not because we couldn't afford a smaller celebration, but because I needed time to process how completely I'd been manipulated by someone I'd trusted with my life. Marlene pled guilty to fraud and received 2 years in prison plus restitution orders. She sent me a letter from jail that I threw away without reading. I don't want her apologies or explanations. I want to rebuild my ability to trust people without constantly questioning their motives. Jason and I finally got married last month. Small ceremony, immediate family only. We're still paying off the debt from Marlene's deception, but we're building something real together. Sometimes I wonder if I'll ever be able to take someone's medical crisis at face value again. If a friend gets sick, will I automatically doubt them? Will I demand to see medical records before offering help? Marlene didn't just steal our money. She stole my ability to trust completely, to love without reservation, to help without suspicion. But maybe that's a lesson I needed to learn. Maybe there's a difference between being loving and being naive, between being supportive and being enabling. I'm learning to trust my instincts again, to ask questions when things don't add up, to verify before I sacrifice. Marlene taught me that some people will exploit any kindness you show them, but Jason is teaching me that some people are worthy of complete trust. The difference is learning to tell them apart.